Hello everybody, happy Sunday. Thank you for being here. Appreciate those of you showing up in any capacity as always. And also thank you for allowing me the time and the space to be off last week. Had a really nice weekend with my family, so thank you, thank you, thank you. Typically when that's gonna happen, like it's planned and it's announced somewhat in advance, that was not necessarily the case, but I was very thankful to be able to have the opportunity to have kind of a short planned impromptu little short weekend trip with my family, especially like right before my kids went back to school. Yeah, so thank you, thank you, thank you. The weekly video still came out last week as well as yesterday, so if you have not seen that for this upcoming week, go ahead and check that out on YouTube. Yeah, here we are ready to go for this week. So new moon came through over the weekend yesterday. Moon is still in the sign of Virgo, so we're still under that new moon energy. So hopefully that has been good for everybody. And however it's showing up, I'm going to go ahead and put our intention up here for this week. And here it is. This week, I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. So for those of you that may not know, the intention is always released on Friday ahead of the weekly video Saturday, and then of course ahead of our meditation here together on Sunday. So giving you that intention to sit with while you, just sitting with it yourself before like any other external information comes in, but then also having it while you go through that weekly video, and then that being a little bit of personal prep before we come here to the meditation, and then, unfolding into your week and whatnot. So whether or not this is the first time you've heard the intention, let's go ahead and take just a moment to sit with the intention. So just sitting with these words and just seeing what comes up, if anything at all, any thoughts, any feelings when you hear the words. I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. Taking just a moment or two. Any thoughts, any feelings, anything it makes you want to do or want to avoid, any hesitations or anything that it makes you excited about, any events that it makes you think about, any processes that have been in process for you. All right, yeah, so we have a few things that we're going to talk about. We're going to go ahead and look at the chart for that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the chart up. We've been doing this for quite a while. I try to say this as often as I remember. If looking at the chart is overwhelming, then feel free just to look away. Feel free to listen. I do encourage trying to take in the chart in bite-sized pieces if it's not something that you're familiar with, just because it can be overwhelming to try to take in everything all at one time. And we do just look at small little sections, but the more we look at the chart, the easier it is just to start to identify or even just become familiar with the layout and the way, not feeling so overwhelmed with so many symbols, even if you don't necessarily know what they all are. So I just use it to just point out the chart and point out the aspects that we have to give you a little bit of a visual. So having that visual connection as well as just being introduced to the chart here and there. So I'm going to go ahead and point out that the moon is still in the sign of Virgo. Like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, you can find that in the 7th house in this chart. The house placement is not necessarily important within the charts that we're looking at here, except for simply locating the signs within the houses. So if you find the numbers in the center, find the number 7, it'll be on the right hand side, and that's the 7th house within this chart. You'll see that the moon is still in the sign of Virgo, where we had the new moon coming through yesterday, Saturday, August 23rd, and that came through at 0 degrees. So we have 2 new moons in the sign of Virgo coming through here. That does not happen very often. That only happens when you get a new moon at the very beginning and the very end of the sign. So we have one here at 0 degrees. We'll have the full moon in the sign of Pisces, which is going to be a lunar eclipse. And then we have a new moon at 29 degrees of Virgo that's going to come through, and that's going to be the solar eclipse for eclipse season. We always get eclipses within two pairs, a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse. That's a new moon and a full moon, and we'll talk more about that as we get closer to. The other first thing that I want to point out is that if we take a look at Venus, she's at 29 degrees of Cancer, so she is finishing up just her very last hours in the sign of Cancer, and that's where most of our action is going to come through. So let's see, we have, I'm going to go ahead and move the chart forward here. Okay. Tomorrow, Venus is going to enter the sign of Leo, and that's where most of the action that we're looking at that goes into our attention, as well as a big focus of this week is happening here, because as Venus enters the sign of Leo, not only is she entering that fiery domain of the sun, but she's also interacting with outer planets as she moves into this new sign. So she's going to make an opposition to Pluto this week. If we see Venus at 0 degrees of Leo, if you go exactly opposite that in the chart, in the 12th house, you'll see Pluto at 1 degree. So Venus is going to make an opposition to Pluto. She's going to make trines to both Saturn and Neptune. Saturn first and then Neptune, but really they're going to happen just simultaneously because Saturn sits at 0 degrees, Neptune sits at 1 degree. And you'll find those two planets in the 2nd house in this chart. So if you find that number 2, you'll see 0 and 1 there. That is a trine to where Saturn is. It's 4 signs away, or 120 degrees. And then we have a sextile between Uranus and Venus. Uranus is at 1 degree of Gemini in the 4th house in this chart. So if I bring my pointer out here, we find Venus in the 6th house here in Leo, and she's making that opposition to Pluto over here. And then she's making a trine. It's a fire trine. Trines are always of the same elemental nature, to Saturn and to Neptune. And then a sextile. Both the trine and the sextile are both helpful aspects. They're both beneficial. The opposition can pull in either direction. It can pull, have a little bit of a push and a pull, and a little bit of a dynamic polarization that come along with it. So it can pull together like a conjunction. It can repel and push away. Think about magnets. Think about, like, if you take two different magnets and if you put them together one way, they're going to pull together. But then if you turn just one of those magnets around and just change maybe one little element of that polarity and you switch it around, then they're going to repel, they're going to push away from each other. So these are the aspects that we are looking at here this week. And really, the trines that we have coming through here between Venus in fiery Leo and Saturn and Neptune is really, really interesting, along with that sextile that we have. Very powerful energy coming through here. So I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. The word expansion within itself is one of the key words that we use for trines, right? Trines are of the nature of Jupiter. They typically bring the two planets together where they can express themselves in the way that they do in the signs and the places that they are. And they can bring what they have to offer, and they can bring it together. They can work together, they can grow, they can unify, and they can create something out of that. They can create a space for growth and proliferation and things to move through some sort of potential. There is growth, there can be inspiration, there can be opportunity. These are also keywords that we could use with the fire sign elements. So both Aries, where Saturn and Neptune are, and Leo are both fire signs. Fire signs can be very creative, can be very passionate. There can be a lot of energy that is moving. They're masculine signs, so they can be very extroverted, they can be very assertive, they can be very energizing. There is movement, there is energetic movement, and there is ambition, and there is power, there is strength, there is enthusiasm and willpower in the fire signs. They are signs that can assert and can often have the confidence within the space that they, within their own natural significations, can assert themselves and can apply themselves. So when Venus is coming into the sign of Leo, she's looking to lift herself up. She's looking to be able to assert her desires. She's looking to be able to feel, to really feel fulfilled in a way that can be energizing to her and can lift her up as well as lift others up at the same time. She's looking for power. She's looking for strength. She's looking for ability. She's looking for the opportunity to be her authentic self. And she's coming into a fiery trine with both Neptune and Saturn. Saturn and Venus coming together can represent a maturity of our desires, right? Or the ability to create something in a format that works. Maybe we've experienced the ways that don't necessarily work, and we can take that experiences or that information and we can, you know, do it like a little bit better or something a little bit more efficiency. So that's where you could get like the maturity of it. Saturn I often think of as a container or something that can give form to whatever we are trying to create. When I think about fire, there's a lot of potential, but if you think about like if you start a fire, like a campfire, like there's a lot of potential and there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of just raw authenticness to it, right? But the fire is kind of like all over the place. So, but if you could put that into a container of some kind, then you can get something that's kind of like a lantern or a light or something that can kind of illuminate in the direction that you want it to, and then kind of help you that way, right? So I think of Saturn being kind of that container for the fire that Venus has, and Saturn in the sign of Aries can be a container within its own right. So giving some sort of form to the fire, to the passion, to the energy that has been building. Neptune is going to allows for expansion, just like the trine does. When you have Venus and Neptune coming together, especially in a cooperative aspect, in a expansive aspect like the trine, then we can expand creatively. We can feel very inspired in a like idealistic way that has us wanting to express our creativities and our passions and just whatever we are really feeling at the time, wanting to just really be able to express that fully and from a place that comes from within, a place that can be rooted in beliefs or strengths or convictions or just things that we really, really feel, things that we really, really feel strongly. Excuse me. So, embracing expansion within a growing commitment. So the expanding and the growing both being within the trine, the commitment coming from Saturn, and the expansion to allow ourselves to dream big, reach into spaces that have been a little bit difficult. Excuse me. That is an energy that could be opening up here for some of us this week. So Venus moving through the sign of Cancer had Venus in a square to Saturn and to Neptune. We talked about that when Venus entered the sign of Cancer. So the square can be a scratchy aspect. It can be a little bit difficult. It can be wherever the blockage or the disconnect, wherever we need to put in some work and find maybe a little bit different way to do things. It challenges us to move a little bit differently. The trine is expansive. So maybe if Venus in Cancer was blocked from the fire, blocked from the creativity or the passion or the ability to express oneself authentically, and maybe there was some sort of emotional connection to that, then maybe Venus moving into the sign of Leo for some of us could be finding that authentic energy and finding that power and finding that strength and finding that light within us. Leo is the place of the sun, so it's the place of the one light, it's the place of the soul. So That's where we kind of get the stereotypes of Leo being self-centered, or wanting like the center stage. It's because it's that light that can overpower, even if it doesn't necessarily realize it. But it doesn't that light doesn't have to be something that overpowers other people's lights. That light can just be something that illuminates us from within and allows us to shine out fully in our own bright, authentic way. The opposition to Pluto can reach in the best way, can reach into the depths to pull power and passion and creativity out of spaces that maybe have been a little hard to reach. Venus opposite Pluto could have us overly asserting our desires, and then maybe we are aggressively overpowering others, but that's not the type of energy that we are reaching into here. Those are in this meditation, those are the things that we save for the video on Saturdays. So within its best, Venus opposite Pluto allows us to reach down into the depths, down into the underworld, to be able to pull up the strength to come forward to support us, and strength from places that we don't always necessarily see, and finding our own hidden power, especially when we're talking about Leo at the same time. So Pluto, is the planet of the underworld, of the subconscious, of the unconscious material, but it's also power, it's also riches, it's also strength coming up from underneath. So there's a lot of empowering energy where maybe if there's been some struggles as far as Venus goes, Venus in Cancer came through the conjunction with Jupiter, which was probably really great for a lot of people, but a lot of people also probably learned a lot of things that had a very emotionally bonded, connected aspect to it, and that's like learning things and learning now, and like having more knowledge and information come to us isn't always the easiest, right? Like sometimes once you start to realize the things that you have to learn, then you realize the things that you don't know, or at least that's kind of a space that I've been in a lot lately. So Venus in Cancer can be very nurturing and very loving and very kind and tender, but it can also have us feeling very vulnerable in a lot of different ways. So now Venus in Leo might, for some of us, be really just uplifting and empowering, and that is the energy that I want to step into for our meditation here this week. So within this intention, I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. When I think about being able to expand from a place where there's commitment and maturity and a container first, technically the trine from Venus to Saturn comes first before the one to Neptune, just because we have Saturn at 0 degrees and Neptune at 1 degree. So we can think of this, even though they're kind of happening simultaneously, we can think of the container or the commitment or maybe the safety or feeling safe, feeling secure, having some sort of trust coming first, and then being able to be a place where we can grow and expand from there. So I see that within the trines here. But I also see that within the Pisces Virgo axis, which is definitely highlighted here this upcoming week, or this upcoming lunar cycle and the following. This is the axis where we're having our eclipses. So we're having eclipses across the Virgo Pisces axis. We just entered that lunar cycle that's going to take us into that. This axis here has a lot to do with trust and safety and feeling secure enough to move into the dark or move into the light or contemplate the things in the sign of Pisces or prepare for the harvest that's going to be upcoming after the sign of Virgo. So there's a lot about feeling secure and feeling safe and being able to trust across this axis. I also see that illustrated here in the order of the trines, it feels like. So again, finding this light within us and the fire within us in the sign of Leo, but also cultivating from a place of trust, a place of being able to trust enough to be vulnerable. Venus, Neptune can be very, very vulnerable, and Venus has been in the sign of Cancer, which is also a vulnerable space. So, you know, what can we take away from that? What can we take away from those vulnerable spaces that we have found ourselves in, right? And then find this growing commitment to the safety that we've noticed around that, wherever that comes in for you, and then moving forward and moving beyond that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool, interesting possibilities. You know, the sextile to Uranus can bring in some different ideas and some innovations. You know, maybe allow us to kind of try something a little bit different, move a little bit differently, and allows us to be authentic too. So, you know, there could be ideas that are bursting forward. Sun is perfecting its square to Uranus. We talked about that in the last two videos with the new moon and with the weekly video for this upcoming week, talking about that Sunday. So, you know, there's a lot of energy to, you know, maybe have a little bit of courage and a little bit of bravery coming through here. So hopefully you can see where that is playing out in your life right now. Yeah, so that's the astrology that we have for the week. The cards that came up, we had two of them that popped out right away together. First, we had the Strength card. The Strength card, the Lion, Leo, right? It came in the reverse position, so we're going to talk about that. And then the Ace of Wands. The Wands representing the fire element. So I feel like both of these cards were very, very fitting. The Strength card, at first when it was reversed, I thought, that was a little bit interesting. But you know, sometimes when a card is in the reverse position, it's giving us an opportunity to usher that in. It's telling us, you know, maybe like either there's been a lack of that, or like this is now the time to bring it in. And when you think about Venus sitting at 29 degrees of Cancer, where she is right now, and she's getting ready to move into the sign of Leo, it's like the Strength card in reverse is saying, you know, you're at the precipice. You're at the precipice of the Strength here. So the ability to turn it is always there, right? Like we have the ability to turn the card up, around and around, to upright to reverse, or to reverse to upright. So I see this as a moment to usher in the Strength, usher in that Lion within you, and see where Venus and the sign of Leo can go. You can also look at the house and the topics of the house where Leo is within your own chart. And then the Ace of Wands felt very perfect too for Venus entering Leo, the fire sign. Like I said, the Wands represents the fire element, and the Ace of Wands, growth potential, ambition. It's moving into new energy, but moving into new higher energy of some kind. With the Ace, it's new beginnings, it's new horizons, it's inspiration and opportunity. When I think about like moving beyond new horizons, like if you look at this image, I know these are not the Rider-Waite images, but this cute little bunny guy is like catapulting with this pole, and he's just like flying literally over the moon and the stars, beyond the horizons. So like the trine that expands us to a space that's beyond, that's where this Ace of Wands is going, and it's going into a creative, passionate, potential-filled space, and that's a lot of what we're talking with this trine here, of like being able to expand and being able to move into our fiery, passionate, authentic energy. Like there's a lot of fire, where there's a lot of movement here. We're going to do some moving within our meditation. So I think it's really, really cool energy that we have potentially coming through here. Fire always has the ability to like go for burnout, right? Like it just keeps going, it keeps pushing. The sign of Aries is initiator. It likes to create something, it likes to start something, and Leo keeps the fire burning. It keeps the candle burning and the wick going. It's the sun, it doesn't go out, right? So we could overdo it, we could overexpand, we could overexert ourselves, and we could physically or metaphysically burn ourselves out. So that is something to keep in mind. But that's the container. That's the growing commitment. That's Saturn. That's the trine between Venus and Saturn coming through and giving us that maturity to know when to pull back and when to slow down a little bit. So let's get ready to move into our meditation. I do want to bring just a little bit of movement into the meditation this week. Nothing crazy, not a lot. Just I usually do just small spinal flexions, maybe a little bit of stretching and a little bit of, lengthening of the abdominal cavity and of the rib cage. But with all of this expanding energy, with all this fiery energy, I want to cultivate a little bit of that movement and a little bit of that energy within our being and within our body this week to bring into this and to usher Venus into the sign of Leo as she's going to ingress into the sign. So let's see. I'm going to just bring the astrology clock back up one more time because I just want to get that visual of Venus sitting at 29 degrees of Cancer right now. So the 5th house is Cancer. 29 degrees, you'll see the glyph for Venus. It's kind of that like bluish tealish color. And let's just start by noticing Venus. And if you know your rising sign, if you know the houses of your chart, just think about where Venus has been. Think about the topics of that house. And if you don't necessarily know, then just picture Venus finishing up her actions and her work in one area of your life and ushering into another. So you can see the little line, like it's kind of like a grayish line. Think of that line that crosses into the sign of Leo. Think of that as like a door. Venus moving from the watery Cancer area of the moon through the door into the fiery, passionate area of the sun. And even if you don't know what that means, let's just welcome her in. All right. Thank you for giving me a moment to go ahead and do that. I'm going to leave the intention up for just another moment or two, and then we're going to take that down. I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move the intention out of the way. We have our intentional candle, white as always, for purity, clarity, cleansing, a blank slate to make it any color that you want it to be. We're talking about fire, we're talking about passion, creativity. Maybe you want it to be red. Maybe you want it to be orange because you want it to relate to the sacral chakra and the creativity that can come out of it. Maybe you want it to be yellow to relate to that solar plexus and to that energy where that powerhouse, that storehouse of energy right here within our being. Maybe you want it to be rainbow or any other color of the upper chakras going through for any reason. I just want to open up a space to where you can create and connect with the energies that are around us and the transits and the placements in a meaningful way for you. So I feel like just starting with white, the base, we can go from there. They're white sage. They have white sage oil in them, the candles that I use. Not sure how much longer that's going to be going on because it's getting harder to find them. The person that I always bought them from does not have them anymore. So yeah, I'm going to light our intentional candle. And as I do so, I'm going to recite the intentional phrase. As I recite the phrase, I encourage you to go ahead and say it with me out loud or in your head or whatever capacity that you are able to. I'm going to go ahead and take just a couple deep breaths first because I've been talking a lot without doing that. So if you can give me just a moment, feel free to join me or not. All right, get ready to light the intentional candle. I'm looking in the comments. Hi, Kim. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. I'm going to light the intentional candle and recite the intentional phrase. Like I said, I encourage you to say it with me, whatever capacity works for you with where you are at right now. So, I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. All right, light the intentional candle. Flame ignites, and as the flame ignites, it begins to grow. As the flame grows, so does our intention. I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. I embrace expansion within a growing commitment. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start by settling in. If you haven't already, I invite you to find a comfortable seated or lying or even standing position, whatever works well for you at the moment. And begin to turn your attention inward. As we slowly start to settle in, and we try to find our quiet space here, we turn our attention to the breath. Now for just a moment, I want you to notice and observe the breath and the current pattern of the breath that you have at this moment. Taking just a moment to acknowledge and observe. I encourage you, as we begin here, to do your best to attempt to not make any changes or alterations to the breath. The time for that will come, and our movements will naturally level out the breath. Taking just a moment to acknowledge, notice, here as we begin to find an awareness of our breath. We're in a place of stillness, but perhaps this place of stillness has a little bit of flexibility. There's a little room for movement and perhaps expansion that could come through that. So perhaps now your hands are on your laps, or on your knees, or on the surface next to you. I encourage you to bring your hands down to either side and just let them relax down on your left and right side. And we're going to meet together on the exhale. As we get ready for the inhale, as you breathe in, slowly bring your hands up, raising your hands up overhead, breathing in and feeling that air filling you up within. Next, as you move into the exhale, slowly allow your hands to fall back down by your side, moving slowly and steadily, the pace that resonates with the breath moving in and out of your body. Good. Next breath in, raising your arms up. Exhale, release. In, bringing your hands up and release. Continuing the inhales and the exhales as you move your hands up on the inhale, allowing your hands to release on the exhale, lifting them up only as high as resonates with your body, taking responsibility for our own movements here. Feel the movement and the energy that is cultivating within your shoulders, within your arms, and within your hands. Maybe even within your chest and your abdominal stomach area. Maybe you're cultivating and moving some energy that has felt stuck for a little while. And on the next exhale, allow your hands to rest down by your side. We'll take one nice deep breath in together, breathing in and breathing out. One more breath in and out at your own pace. We have some movement and energy maybe cultivated within our shoulders, within our arms, within our chest, within our heart space. Feel free to roll your shoulders backwards or forward to keep that momentum and that energy and that movement going. Whatever feels good within your body at this moment. Before we move into some slow, steady spinal flexion, seated cat-cow poses. Again, if at any time these movements do not resonate within your body, physically, energetically, emotionally, mentally, in any possible way, you refrain and move in a way that resonates properly with yourself at that moment. So, as we move into the spinal flexion movement, we slowly begin to move the spine. Picture your abdominal region where your navel is. Picture a string attached to your belly button, to your navel in the middle of your belly. And as you inhale in, picture that string or that cord relaxing, allowing your belly and your navel to move towards your spine. And as your navel moves towards your spine, your shoulders naturally begin to round. Next, notice that string, pull your navel forward as your belly begins to protrude outward, your spine rounding outward, shoulders moving back, heart space moving forward. Once more, that cord begins to pull your navel back towards your spine. And as it does so, your shoulders begin to round. Next, we'll move the breath in with the movements. From this position, find yourself in an exhale. As you move into the inhale, navel moves forward, abdomen extends forward, shoulders roll back, heart space shines forward. It's a seated cow position in the cat-cow spinal flexion. And then you slowly begin to release the exhale, releasing the breath. Navel begins to move back towards your spine. As it does so, your abdomen moves inward, shoulders round forward, head rests forward, and you rest in the exhale. Find that movement between the inhale and the exhale. Continue moving through the spinal flexion as it works for you. Abdomen moving forward, heart space shining forward on the inhale, bringing in that energy. Spine begins to round. Shoulders round in on the exhale. Perhaps your hands rest down by your side, perhaps on your knees or on your thighs, whatever works for you. Anytime these movements don't feel well within your body, adjust as needed. Cultivating energy, strength, and connection within our own being today. Finding that strength within. Breathing in, breathing out. We'll meet together at a neutral spine. Find a moment of stillness. Find a container for the energy that you are cultivating within. Today, through movement, through expansion of the physical body, we find an expansion that we can embrace. But we do it from a commitment of coming to this place of silence, this place of contemplation, this place of where we return to keep that connection growing each and every week. A connection that reaches beyond Sunday nights. Getting ready to move into our next movement. I want to expand the abdominal cavity, expand the rib cage. This energy in this area, there's such a powerhouse in the abdominal area. All of our internal organs are here. This is a space where our energy cultivates within and allows our body to expand outward. It allows it to participate in life so many ways. So we begin by bringing in inhale and allowing our hands to float up. If at any time you need to allow your hands down to rest, you go ahead and do so. Here we're going to expand the rib cage by alternating a stretch on either side of our side body here. So bring your hands up overhead here, and there's a possibility that your shoulders are reaching up high to your ears. So drop your shoulders down into your shoulder sockets if possible. And beginning with the right side, reach up with the intention of stretching not from your shoulder, but from the side body where your rib cage is. And feel the expansion coming right from your rib cage, allowing your arm to reach up higher. And then rest. Turning the focus to the left side. Shoulder is down in the shoulder joint. Arm is plugged in down. And we begin to slowly find some movement and expansion in the left side, coming from the rib cage. Not reaching up with the hand, not reaching up with the shoulder, but finding length and extension through the side body. Rest. Moving to the right side, we find that extension and rest. Moving to the left side, finding that extension and rest. Right side expansion. Then we add in the breath. As you reach up with the side, you inhale. As you reach back down and rest, you exhale. Moving to the left side, inhale up, exhale, release. And then begin to find your breath in alternating the expansion from either side, the left side to the right side, reaching not with the hand, not with the shoulder, but with the side body, moving within the space that feels comfortable within your own being. Taking breaks as needed, but feeling that fire cultivating within you. Just a couple more breaths. And release when ready. Good. Feel that energy from within your abdomen. Feel it in your arms, feel it in your shoulders, feel it in your heart space. Feel it if you feel your temperature rising. And keep moving. Allow your shoulders to move. Small circles, moving your shoulders back. Maybe alternating, moving forward. Maybe even circles with your neck. Lots of movement, lots of generous activity. Perhaps you find yourself back in that spinal flexion again. Moving any energy through the spine that feels stuck. And the inhales and the exhales move along with it. As you begin to find a movement within your body that works well for you, connecting the inhales and the exhales, allow your breath to be heard. Allow yourself to hear the inhales and hear the exhales. Perhaps you move back into that spinal flexion. Perhaps you move into the ladder of reaching and extending your abdominal muscles. Perhaps you find a nice little side stretch. Maybe your right hand comes down to the ground, left hand reaches up overhead, and you reach to the side. Left hand moving down to the space below you, right hand moving up, and finding a stretch on the right side, expanding that body. And then at the next exhale, we meet together at a place of stillness, a place of rest. Cultivating movement, cultivating strength, but growing that commitment to ourselves. The movement is inspiring. The movement gives us opportunity, ambition, potential, growth. The stillness allows planning, rest, recuperation. Perhaps it allows us to have the maturity that Saturn requests. This week, as Venus enters the sign of Leo, authentic, passion, creative energy sparks within her. Her desires, her relationships, what she wants, what she values, comes from the heart, comes from a space within. She's immediately met by all of the outer planets, opposition to Pluto, trines to Saturn and Neptune, sextile to Uranus. As she's empowered in the place of the sun, as she is lifted up after her emotional journey where she can stand on her own 2 feet, she is given the gift of a container, the gift of structure, as well as the gift of inspiration, the gift of romantic dreaming and ideals, reaching into a place of creativity that is not only imaginative, but also secure and strong, and something that could potentially be timeless, reaching beyond the immediate actions. Pluto may show her some deeply transformational energy. Perhaps it's cathartic, perhaps it's something a little bit dark or a little bit hidden, something unexpected. But even if there's a moment, perhaps it gives us a space to grow and expand from. As Venus tiptoes into Leo, we tiptoe into eclipse season. Perhaps there's no tiptoeing at all. Perhaps there's running. Perhaps there's stomping. Perhaps there's a gentle stride that is not laxed nor rushed. This week, find movement, find strength within, find that fire within, and allow it to radiate outward like the sun. Allow it to expand. Where do you see opportunity? Where do you see inspiration and ambition? And where is the potential for growth at this very moment? And in our closing moments, we give thanks to Venus for the blessings that she is about to provide in the Leo house of our chart. We need not to know exactly what that means. We don't even need to know a single thing about our birth chart. Simply being thankful for the blessings before they come our way. So Venus, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the uplifting, authentic inspiration that you are about to give us. and thank you for being here during this meditation. That was a lot different than how it normally is. So if you're kind of new around here, just know that. Thank you for moving along with it with me. Anytime that I bring movement in, always honoring your own body, just like as I bring in any sort of breathing exercises. I think movement is a good thing for this week. So I invite you to bring that in any way that you can. It could be through some of the exercises that we did. It could be through taking a walk. It could be through, any other kind of activity, whatever it is that works for you. Find some movement. Find some way to burn off some energy and create room for new energy at the same time. Ideas and strength could be coming in for many, many of us, and we're moving into eclipse season. So the energy is heightening for many people, and beginnings and endings, right? Eclipses are new moons and full moons on high. They are like supercharged new moons and full moons. So yeah, looking forward to this week and the weeks that are coming up. So thank you again for being here. If you haven't already seen it, look at the weekly video for this week that was released yesterday, Saturday the 23rd on YouTube. Next Friday, our intention will be out, and then next Saturday, the weekly video, and I will see you all here next Sunday. Replays are available if you aren't here live, so next weekend is a holiday here in the United States. So yeah, everybody have a great week, and I will see you next week. Take care.